Hi guys, it's Kelly and I am back again with another video. It's either feast or famine around here. So today I am participating in the Simon Says Stamp Friends blog hop, and this is one of their newer releases. They didn't do a hop at the time because it was right in the middle of the holidays, so we're doing it now, and it was worth the wait. I'm using the Wonky Hearts. I'm using it to make a mask is what I'm doing. I'm not actually using the die like where the stitching part is. And then I'm also using the center cut heart stamp and the stained glass love sentiments. So basically what I have here is just a regular piece of cardstock, and I'm putting some Eclipse masking paper on top of it because I want to use that very large heart to create a mask for a 1-layer card. I really need to invest in, I think Simon Says Stamp has some, like, the masking paper sheets, so I don't have to do this, like, create my own whole sheet of masking. I just haven't got around to buying it yet. Story of my life. So here I've run it through my Big Shot, and this is kind of going to look like a hot mess when we're pulling off the mask. So I'm just going, it pulled away really easily. I only had one small section where it kind of started to tear a little bit, and that's where it was extremely thin on the edges. That was, I mean, it's just kind of the nature of it. There wasn't much to it, but it's just going to look like you're never going to be able to put this back down. That's not true. Basically, just pick a corner. I picked the top right-hand corner and then start laying it down, and it will unravel itself. I mean, it wasn't difficult. I didn't have to fight with it or fight with the adhesive. It went down really easy to mask this large heart on the top right-hand corner of my card. So I'm going to be stamping using both of them actually, but for right now, the original Misty, so the large size. The center cutout heart is actually really convenient for this because then I could put the heart down and get it positioned where I wanted it, which was actually in the center of the mask. And then I could fit in the rest of the rubber stamp around it. Side note, you want to make sure that you are removing the black foam out of your Misty because that is for clear stamps. This already has foam built into it because it's a cling stamp, so you don't need that portion of the Misty. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp this. I did have to readjust just a little bit where the heart was to make sure everything was sitting flush, but it was no big deal. And then I'm going to stamp this in black Simon Says Stamp ink because I'm going to be doing watercoloring, and I had no game plan to do any Copic coloring because my game plan totally changed. Don't mind while I knock around the camera a little bit. So I stood up, gave it good pressure. I'm working on Canson watercolor paper. This is the Monteval Aquarelle. It's linked below. It's linked on the blog. And so it is textured. And so I did stamp it twice just to make sure that I got a really good impression. And then I'm going to go ahead and remove it from the Misty and then remove the mask as well. I picked out a rainbow of Distress Oxides. I feel like you've seen this show before, right? And then I had an original game plan. So my original game plan was I was going to go in and do a very controlled watercolor. You saw my video from yesterday. You know I'm kind of feeling that, and I wanted to see if I could do it with Distress Oxides. Except I couldn't fight it. So I kept starting with clear water, which is not the way that you do that technique, folks. It's not. You go in and lay down color. So I started doing that. I was, filling in it, not the same kind of technique as the one that we did, where you just lay down a line of color and then pull it out into clean water. I just wanted it to be more controlled because I wanted to fill in all of the little images that are in this beautiful stamp. That was my game plan. So just wetting my brush, doing the wet to dry technique. So wet brush, dry paper, filling those little areas in. And I thought it would just be really pretty to go through and kind of just treat it almost like a coloring book. But just with Distress Oxides. I thought that would be fun and pretty. Except part of the reason why I decided to do this was because I feel like frequently I make the same cards all the time. I feel like it isn't interesting. It can get boring for you guys as well as myself. And there I started doing it again. And so basically what ended up happening was I decided that I should not be forcing this. Like, I have everybody, okay, not even just me, everybody in their life has so much stress in their life. Like, I'm not stressing about a card, guys. Like, there are bigger things. So basically what I decided to do was just blot up all of the Distress Oxide ink that I put down, and then I just did it the way I wanted to do it, the way I always do it, and the way that makes me happy. And I'm not sorry. So I blotted up the ink, and now I'm just going in with a number 8 round brush, and I am wetting the entire inside of the heart. Because that's how I like my Distress Oxides. I like them when they're rainbow colors. I like them when they make friends with each other. I like them... Not that it can't be controlled, because we have a masked area. It is very controlled. It's still a very clean look. It's just not each individual piece's part. And I'm not necessarily sure that I would have liked that. Maybe with my Copics. I would have. But for these, I just was not feeling it. So after I put down the clean, clear water, I just started picking up the Distress Oxides and kind of laying them down in like triangle shapes toward the center. So almost like rays coming out from that heart in the center. And then I'm just going to keep going around. This is pretty wet. My paintbrush is fairly wet. I'm really more just looking to put down like a base of color, not so much the intensity at this point. So I'm just going to continue all the way around. And because I'm working in the rays, I don't have to worry about pretty much anything getting like muddy or looking weird, not blending well. The center of it did start to get a little bit muddy, that heart in the center. But I'm just going to go in and blot it up. So once I'm happy with as much color as I have down, then there's me blotting it up because it got, like I said, a little bit muddy. And then I'm going to blot up kind of the areas where the water is pooling. Normally I don't show me drying it because I figure, like, you see the heat gun, you got the idea, we're drying it. So I am going to show you me drying it twice. The first one is because watch this bottom. I'm going to chase this green all the way up to the top. That is one way that you can get rid of pigment in areas that you don't want it. You can move it with the heat tool because that air is blowing. It will move the water around. So now I'm going back in. This time I'm not wetting it first. I'm back to the wet brush dry paper. And I'm using substantially less water on my brush because I am now going for a more intense color. You'll notice here, I used the spiced marmalade and the fossilized amber. And it's like when they get wet, they almost are the same color. So I did have to go back in just a little bit more with the spiced marmalade to make it look a little bit orange. And to me, it doesn't really look orange until we add the shading later on. I just don't know. It's just one of those colors that its base must be just so yellow that when you add the water to it, it really kind of just, it's not a true orange at all. It's still very pretty and I still love the color, but it's just not as orange as I would like sometimes. So anyway, yesterday, let's talk about, this is part of a blog hop. So for Simon Says Stamp, and they are always super generous. Love them as a company, love Heidi as a person. But they are doing a hop, and they did one yesterday as well on Friday, January 12th. They're doing a $25 gift certificate giveaway to one commenter from each blog on the hop. So if you are watching on YouTube and you have not been over to my blog, I would encourage you to go over there, just so you don't miss out on your chance to win, $25 gift card. Who doesn't want that? That's yay. And then speaking of giveaways, yesterday after I had posted the watercolor card, which if you're watching this like sometime later in the future, I will link to the video that I keep mentioning. But anyway, I was writing up my blog post and I was thinking about, because Angie gifted me this set and I was like, that's so nice of her. She gifted me this set. And I'm like, that's just, I love when people are kind. And then like it dawned on me like, oh, I could probably do the same thing. Was going to buy the stamp set anyway. What is the difference in buying it for myself or buying it for somebody else? So I also have a giveaway going on, which will be open until January 19th. Of 2018. So please go over there and leave the instructions are on the blog. What I wanted to know is I want to know your random act of kindness. Your comment does have to be on the blog though. So here, the second time I'm showing you the drying, I'm showing it to you because somebody had asked me about warping, their paper warping. I did not tape my paper down because my design was on the right-hand side. One of the things that you can do to help with the warping is dry the back of your paper also. That will help flatten it out. Some people, I have personally put it in a book before. That works for me. There's some people who say that doesn't work for them. The other thing that you can do is iron it, like before you do anything else, like when it's just the watercolor piece. You can put just like a piece of copy paper over it, and you can iron it with no moisture on low heat, and that will also help. But that one's like, I don't know your iron. I know my iron. That's what works for me. So here, I can't leave well enough alone ever. And I just wanted there to be some brighter color. So that's basically what I'm doing is I just picked a couple of Copics. I'm not really doing any blending or shading. I'm just picking out a couple of colors, and this is where that spiced marmalade starts to actually look a little bit orange, especially once we get the yellow marker down, and you can see that there is a difference between at least the two markers. The way that I picked them is so that they would work well together. Most of the time that means picking ones that have a similar end number. So like I used a Y38 with a Y08, and that is an exception because I blended the Y08 into a YG03. A 3 and an 8 are a little far apart, but because it's a yellow, it kind of is an exception to the rule. I blended the YG03 into a G02, G02 into a B02, and a B02 to a V04. So all of those numbers are kind of similar. The RV and the R both ended in 5. So anyway, there's no rhyme or reason to how I'm picking this stuff. I'm just wanting to add a little bit of pop of color. So there is a giveaway over there. I love reading your guys. I always love reading your guys' comments. I probably don't say that enough, probably because I don't really, I guess, promote my channel. I'm not like, hey, subscribe, click the bell, do this. I just figure if you like what you see, you'll subscribe. So I don't ever really talk about like the channel as a whole, but I should, because I am extremely grateful for you guys, for your comments and your participation, and that you keep coming back here week after week, even though I am making the same card over and over again. So thank you very much for your support. I genuinely appreciate that. Speaking of kindness, that was what I wanted to know for the giveaway. Was I want to know like your way of giving back, not only because I think it's interesting, but also because, hey, it gives me some ideas. So one of the ones that I saw that's a pretty common theme that I also do myself is paying for the person behind you in the drive-thru. I do that all the time. There's one specific, why was that so hard to say? Specific drive-through that I go through, and every single time I go through it, it doesn't matter what it is, I'm paying for the person behind me. There was somebody else who drives around, Teresa, girl, I see you. That's amazing. Her and her husband drive around when it's snowing, and they help elderly people shovel their driveways, which is amazing. So cool. There's a lot of people who help out elderly people or disabled. Lots of you are mailing out encouraging cards. There was one girl, I'm sorry, I forgot to look to make sure I knew that what your name was, and I apologize because it's nice when people know your name. She makes just kind of little encouragement cards and then carries them around in her purse and hands them out, which is so brave because people, I think a lot of times people have a hard time engaging with people face to face. So good for you. That's fantastic. So back to this card. I outlined everything, added some interest with the white dots like I normally do. I knew I was rolling the die here, stamping the sentiment directly over it. It ended up working out. I did fill it in just like I did with the last video that I used these sentiments for, just to kind of make it a little bit bolder. My backup game plan, if it didn't work, was to do the part over the heart in white heat embossing. I'm like, I'll just leave it in my MISTI. I'll stamp it again. If I have to heat it emboss it in white, then it'll just be like a half and half sentiment, and maybe that'll be cool. I didn't end up having to do that. So here, to finish off the sentiment, I'm doing, again, what I normally do, because you've heard me say this. One of the best piece of craft advice I ever got was find something that you love and do that well. And this is rainbows, black and white, just playing with color, Copic markers, very, kind of clean and simple, letting it all be about the coloring and the colors. And that's what I love. And so I would encourage you, don't compare yourself to other people. It's fine to try trends, but don't try to fit yourself into a box. You do what you love and it will be amazing. I promise you. Just don't spend all your time comparing yourself to other people, because that is just a recipe for disappointment. So I'm adding these clear droplets with some glossy accents, and then that's the whole card. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I will actually have another video not that too far in the future. I know, Christmas miracle, but I will catch you on the next one. Bye.